Starting us off in at number 10, telepathy. This is a power I'm sure many of you are aware of, but we wanted to put it on our list in order to clear up some common misconceptions about the Atlantean superhero. You know the one. Aquaman talks to fish. Lols, how funny, what a goofy guy, he talks to fish. Now, despite the New 52's wonderful retaliation to this, it's still a common myth that Arthur Curry can have long conversations with fish. He's not the deep friends. Perhaps the New 52 description is best. When criticized for ordering fish and chips at a diner, Arthur has to explain to common folk that he doesn't talk to fish. Instead, he says he reaches into their midbrains and telepathically pushes them to help him out, with the exception of dolphins who have more sophisticated brains. He also vaguely alludes to his financial situation in the same diner conversation, in case you were wondering about that. This telepathy does not extend past aquatic life though, or rather has the biggest impact on aquatic life, and is largely considered to be aqua telepathy. In at number 9, heat resistance. Thanks to his superhuman Atlantean physiology, Aquaman is capable of withstanding extreme amounts of heat. His skin is heat resistant. High temperatures that would be fatal to humans are not fatal to him. This even extends to powerful energy blasts, having withstood blasts from Black Manta, Amazo, and even Superman himself. That shit's hot. This isn't the only kind of resistance his body has depicted. He can swim in the depths of the ocean without being affected by the pressure, and can do it while swimming at incredibly fast speeds. Dude is durable. Up next at number 8, he can create ice. So this is kinda obvious when you think about it in a weird, skewed way. When in the vicinity of water, Aquaman is capable of freezing large portions of it if he wills so. But this is not something that he can do on his lonesome. It's thanks to his Trident of Poseidon. The Trident allows for him to project and control ice. Now when in water, he can freeze his opponent solid if need be. The full scope of this ability is not entirely clear, although some believe that in theory, he was capable of freezing massive portions of the ocean via this nifty little trick. Nowadays though, this power is not one that he possesses anymore. The Trident temporarily served as an extension of Poseidon's powers, in a similar way to how Wonder Woman has been given godly powers for brief periods of time too. Like that whole Ares power thing? Yeah. Retcons!
Number 7, Thanatos. Meant to be a dark reflection of Aquaman, Thanatos comes to us from an other dimensional realm known as Nether Space that is kind of reverse purgatory, where beings known as the Others keep entities until they are filled with sufficient evil to be returned to the New Earth dimension. Only coming out of this dimension to lure victims into his world so that he could steal their identities. One day he decided it was time to go for the big guns, and he lured Aquaman to his mirror by sending him a message from Aqualad, asking to meet in the abandoned house the mirror resided in. Satisfied with the powerful identity, Thanatos kept Aquaman's form but was eventually banished back to the Nether Space for, obvious reasons. We see Thanatos return once more. This time it was when Aquaman found his way to the Nether Space as he was in search of Mira. Aquaman and Thanatos engaged in a final battle in which Aquaman is the victor of course, but he refuses to kill Thanatos and the others see this as a weakness and a lack of evil. They deem Aquaman unready to leave, but during the battle Thanatos proved himself to be filled with sufficient evil, and they allowed him to return to the New Earth universe where he could continue to live as Aquaman. Check out the rest of his story for yourself, starting with 1970's Aquaman, number 54.
And at number 6, sonar. This one kinda goes hand in hand with his aqua telepathy. Aquaman has a sonar sense, echolocation, that allows him to use high-pitched frequencies in order to locate objects and living beings within his vicinity. He can also pick up on the frequencies of other life forms. This allows him to create a mental map of the ocean, and lets him remain aware of what or who is in his underwater territory or nearby vicinity. It's an incredibly useful tool in his arsenal. Many believe this trait is thanks to the fact that sea life, the likes of dolphins, use echolocation. It makes sense that Aquaman, the dweller of the depths, would have a similar ability. Creative inspiration.
Number 5, Animal Master. Gustav was just once a regular old animal trainer who made a pretty decent living traveling the world as a circus performer. Like many other performers though, fame and fortune started to get to his head and it got to a point where he began training his animals to commit crimes for him. Having been able to escape the cops on most heists, he began to get cocky and decided to escape by boat, and then this allowed Aquaman to enter the scene. However, he wasn't able to catch him this time around. This was both a blessing in disguise and a curse for Gustav because although he escaped, a terrible storm hit the area and completely destroyed his boat. Presumed to be dead by everyone including Aquaman, Gustav was actually very much alive and had found his way to a desert island where he tirelessly trained the animals he found on the island so he could enact his revenge on Aquaman. He was eventually able to lure Aquaman to his island, but he couldn't beat him and that ended in his arrest. Check out Animal Master for yourself in his first appearance in 1959's Adventure Comics number 261.
Moving on to number 4, teleportation. Aquaman's trident can do a lot, or at least a lot more than turn things into ice and stab foes. It's got 3 pointy ends. The Trident of Poseidon also allows Arthur to teleport. In the 2015 New 52 Aquaman series in issue 40, the Trident's abilities were expanded upon, with teleportation being added to its roster by issue 42. This ability grants him the power to teleport himself globally and interplanetary distances using water as a medium.
Number 3, The Drowned. Coming to us from Earth -11, one of the many Earths from the Dark Multiverse, is Bryce Wayne. Bryce became the Batwoman of her universe after her father Martin Wayne was murdered in an alley. So you know, pretty standard Batman stuff. Later she became romantically involved with Sylvester Kyle, who was also murdered, and this set Bryce on a mission to kill every last metahuman around. And then, after 18 months, she succeeded after killing Aquaman with her own trident. Now in retaliation, the Atlanteans submerged all of Gotham and some part of the world in water. But Bryce, after many augmentations to her body and with Aquaman's trident, was able to conquer the Atlanteans and submerge the rest of her world in water. Now, like all of the Dark Knights under the Batman Who Laughs, the Drowned represents one of Batman's fears. This one being the fear of going too far in the fight against superhumans, his love for Catwoman, and his inability to trust anyone but himself. Check her story out for yourself, starting with her first appearance in 2017's Dark Days, the casting, number 1.
Moving on to number 2, Water Wraith. In the JLA, the Obsidian Age story arc, Aquaman had a bit of a strange period where he was transformed into a water wraith by Zatanna in order to save Atlantis. She challenged his consciousness into the ocean. Basically, he became a living body of water. This form gave him the ability to control all of the oceans on the planet, and gave him such a powerful level of hydrokinesis that he was practically a god. Move over, Poseidon. Since that storyline, we haven't seen Aquaman in this form though. It's probably for the best. He was a bit of a dick at the time. Besides, the storyline was kind of convoluted anyway, so. And finally, in our number 1 spot, limited weather manipulation. This is a power of Aquaman's that has varied over the years. Remember that time that Aquaman lost his hand? In the aftermath of that, he was granted a magical water hand, called the Water Bearer Hand, and it was from a mysterious character called Lady of the Lake. Fun. This allowed him to use something called hydrokinesis, which we've kind of talked about a bit before. It's Arthur's ability to manipulate water, and it's actually something that his wife Mira is more known for in comparison. Now, Arthur could create and manipulate tidal waves at will when he had this power. It was eventually retconned, but later replaced with something slightly different. In the New 52, his trident can summon tsunamis, call down thunder and lightning, and as we mentioned earlier, can project and control ice. It can also move land masses, so lots of environmental stuff going on here, friends.
Number 10, Wacky Man. Although not inherently evil, this unnamed clown of a man is still considered to be an Aquaman villain. Wacky Man was a clown that used robotic versions of aquatic creatures in his act, and because of that, he decided to model his costume after Aquaman's. He was actually a pretty decent clown, bringing in people from all over to see his act. However, this wasn't always the best thing because he eventually caught the attention of some pirates who kidnapped him and forced him to use his robotic sea creatures to not only commit crimes, but to go after the real Aquaman. He proved to be someone who was not truly evil though, because once freed from the pirates, he teamed up with Aquaman to take them down. Check him out in his only appearance in 1957's Adventure Comics number 233, and let me know in the comments below if you think he truly deserves to be considered a villain for that. Number 9. Clownfish. Sidney Allard was once a doctor with a pretty shady practice. He was killing his elderly patients and just covering it up as much as he could. After part of San Diego sank, Allard was recruited by Black Manta and was tasked with taking blood samples of every resident in now Sub Diego. This included Aquaman, Aquagirl, and Cal Durham. After those 3 were rescued, Allard slipped away seamlessly and started looting a room full of chemicals. However, he stumbled a little bit and ended up breaking a vial that contained a strain of the Joker toxin. Engulfed in the toxin, Allard completely lost his sanity, took inspiration from a fish in a bowl, and colored his entire body purple and yellow, and then from then on dubbed himself the Clownfish. He then decided to break into Cal Durham's home and shoot his partner Kaisha Salton with a mini harpoon, and then strapped a bomb to her torso. Obviously, Aquaman arrived on the scene to save Kaisha, but Allard seemed to be prepared for that because he was somehow able to make Aquaman take a truth serum drug so that he could find a way to get rid of him for good. Thankfully, Aquaman was able to sober up before he answered any questions though. Having failed, Allard pushes the trigger for the bomb, however it's revealed that the one strapped to Kaisha was a fake, and the real one was hidden under the couch. Now everyone was saved by Aquaman before the explosion, and Clownfish made a clean getaway. Check out his story for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 2007's Aquaman, Sword of Atlantis. Number 8. The Awesome Threesome. Known together as the awesome threesome, Torpedo Man, Claw, and Magneto, but not the one that you're thinking of, were a team of robotic villains who went up against Aquaman and his Aqua family. Debuting in 1967's Aquaman Volume 1 number 36, this villainous team was telepathically summoned to attack a science hall, but it turns out they picked the wrong day to do it though, because Aquaman, Mera, Aqualad, and Aquababy were all visiting the pavilion and sprung into action the moment they heard all the commotion. Magneto destroyed the gyromoleculizer, which was trapping a convicted alien on Earth for 5,000 years. With the moleculizer destroyed, the alien was free to escape and released his control on the robots. The threesome was apprehended quickly, however the alien escaped to Atlantis and began causing some serious damage to the city. It was able to then make a quick getaway thanks to a flying saucer, and once away it then released its mind control from the three robots once again, and they were back to their old villainous selves. Check out this robotic team of villains for yourself in their first appearance in 1967's Aquaman Volume 1, number 36.
And at number 7, night vision. Arthur has night vision. This is something that comes with his Atlantean physiology. All Atlanteans have heightened senses, and thanks to living underwater and being in the depths of the ocean, being able to see in utter darkness is kind of a must. Aside from traversing areas of the ocean where the sun don't shine, Aquaman has used this trick to aid in battling sea creatures who inhabit the bottom of the ocean floor. And this even comes in handy occasionally when he's fighting foes on land. Can't lurk in the shadows with this guy. He'll spot you.
Number 6. Human Flying Fish. One day, way back in the day, Victor Bragg and Dr. Krill saw Aquaman using his fish telepathy to catch a bunch of baddies. Krill turned to Bragg and convinced him to undergo a special operation to turn him into a human flying fish, because Krill believed that Aquaman would not be able to stop him from that. With his newfound abilities of enhanced speed, flight, and ability to breathe underwater, Bragg was able to outperform Aquaman and escape on every mission he was sent out on. It took a little bit, but Aquaman was eventually able to figure out Bragg's tactics and devise a plan to trap him. Luring him in with a rumor of a bounty of uranium that was somewhere lost at sea, he took the bait and attempted to find it. The human flying fish was then taken out by Aquaman using electric eels, and he alongside Dr. Krill were arrested and taken away. Bragg was later seen as a criminal for hire, but was taken out rather quickly by Joseph Curry, the new Aquaman, and honestly hasn't really been seen since. Take a look at his story for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1960's Adventure Comics number 272. Number 5. Aquadus. Hailing from Earth 9, Dr. Aquadus was once a scientist of the Svitavi Collective, which was the company that was the lead designer of the Red Tornado warhead. After the completion of the Red Tornado, he decided it was time to work on another experiment, which was learning to teleport living tissue. This turned out to be, not the best idea though, because the experiment led to an accident that bonded Aquadus to a nearby lake that transformed his entire body into water. This had its perks though, because now he had the ability to control and manipulate pretty much every body of water, so I guess it wasn't all bad. Dubbing himself Aquaman from that point on, he shifted his eyes onto world domination, doing so by crafting a supergun that would destroy Earth's moon and allow him to completely harness the raw power of all the water on Earth. His plot was soon discovered by 6 heroes: the Atom, Flash, Joker, Manhunter, Plastic Man, and Spectre, and the heroes put a stop to Aquadus' plan, in which he was obliterated from the exploding backlash caused by his destroyed supergun. Check out his story in 1997's Tangent Comics Secret 6, number 1. Number 4. Laren. Residing in the realm known as Dimension Aqua, Laren possesses pretty much all the powers you would expect from Aquaman, just toned down a fair amount. Long ago, he led a revolt against the Queen Mera and forced her to flee to Earth, which is kind of a good thing because that's where she met Aquaman. Laren ended up following her and was able to capture Aquaman and Aqualad and brought them back to Dimension Aqua as prisoners. Thankfully, Aquaman was able to figure out a plan of action pretty quickly, and he alongside Mera and the rest were able to escape back to Atlantis, which just solidified Laren's position as the new ruler of the Dimension Aqua. A few years later, Mera ended up returning to Dimension Aqua and had discovered that Laren had gotten rid of all of her tools and tossed them into the Great Pit. This forced her to go toe-to-toe with Laren, and she was able to overpower him, shattering his mind in the process, leaving him completely and utterly useless. If you feel like it, give this villain's story a read for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1963's Aquaman, number 11.
In at number 3, the Clear. This is a power of Aquaman's that has been retconned over the years, but it's still fascinating and worth mentioning nonetheless. The Clear is not dissimilar to the Green, the force that connects all plant life that characters like Swamp Thing or Poison Ivy are connected to. Or actually kind of like the Force in Star Wars too. Sort of. The Clear, though, is a link between all ocean life in the entire universe, and you bet your butt that Arthur Curry has a deep link to it. It expands his ability to communicate telepathically with aquatic life on a massive scale, connecting to thousands of marine life forms all at once. Impressive, isn't it? But a little OP, which makes sense as to why it's been phased out of his character's history.
Number 2. Scavenger. Peter Mortimer was a deep sea diver and pirate who dubbed himself the Scavenger because, he scavenges. With no real powers, he operated an advanced submersible vessel called the Scorpion Ship and plundered the seas. Hearing rumors of an alien artifact called the Time Decelerator, Mortimer traveled to Atlantis and confronted Aquaman about it because he believed that it was capable of making him immortal. He kidnapped Mera and Aqua Baby and poisoned the water in Atlantis, forcing Aquaman to help him find this new mysterious device. Funnily enough, he actually did end up finding the device, however, upon activating it, it regressed him in age until he stopped existing completely, forcing him to live in a limbo-like state for many years. He eventually was able to somehow make it back to his original age and size, and teamed up with Cobra for a while upon his return. Scavenger is later seen to have reformed and even becomes friends with Aquaman. Their last battle was over stolen cargo that turned out to be vaccines. Mortimer's conscience got the better of him and he was treated like a hero for the very first time as he helped deliver them safely. Aquaman helped him clean up his act and he even became a business owner. There's a little bit more to the story that gets just, a little bit risque, so if you're feeling up to it, I'll let you check that out for yourself. So give his story a read, starting with his first appearance in 1968's Aquaman, number 37. And number 1, King Pomoxis. One of the many corrupt Atlanteans, Pomoxis was one of just the worst, conspiring to straight up eliminate Aquaman for being the chosen hero. Pomoxis summoned Aquaman back to Poseidonis under the pretext of investigating a series of bizarre explosions taking place just outside the city. When the two went to investigate, Pomoxis pushed Aquaman into the path of a spiraling vortex, sending him backwards through time like 2,500 years. Returning to Atlantis, Pomoxis assumed Aquaman's appearance and identity, and told everyone that the real Pomoxis died in the explosions. With Aquaman's reputation, he was able to do pretty much anything and everything. However, he was eventually taken down by the real Aquaman after he returned to the present alongside Aqualad. A short time later, Pomoxis conspired with a pirate named Captain Clay, and together they lured a pack of sea monsters to attack Atlantis. While Aquaman and Aqualad were distracted trying to keep the monsters away from the populated areas, Pomoxis took advantage of the situation and staged a coup against the Atlantean king Stamar. His first official act as the newly crowned king was to imprison Aquaman and Aqualad. However, that did not last long because our heroes were able to dethrone him and just take him down. Check out his 4-issue run for yourself, starting with 1962's Aquaman, number 3. Number 10, The Aquaman. First on our list today is Arthur Curry of the Wildstorm universe. Now I know you're probably thinking, how different could this Aquaman really be if he has the same name and still goes by Aquaman? Well, let me tell you, when I found out about him, I was truly shocked. Arthur, like his main counterpart, still has all his undersea abilities, but instead he gained them by genetically splicing his DNA with that of sea life so that he could, get this, terrorize and demand human sacrifices from a local fishing village. Now these genetic mutations gave him not only the ability to survive underwater and traverse the aquatic terrain with ease, but it also gave him superhuman strength, a ridiculously scary physique, and claws just for that little extra intimidation factor. Now why would he do this, you ask? Well, like I said, one of the reasons was so he could terrorize innocent villagers, but apparently the main reason is that he was so obsessed with his family's supposed heritage, believing himself to be the true king of the sea. What a nut job. Check out his story for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 2018's Wildstorm, Michael Cray, number 4. Number 9, Aqua Beast. Born to a fairly wealthy family, Peter Dudley was a spoiled playboy who one day had a chance encounter with Aquaman and Mera while he was out yachting, and as one does. He immediately fell in love with Mera, who was not interested in him for, obvious reasons, so Dudley set out to beat Aquaman at his own game so he could win Mera's love. He hired a scientist named Dr. Hans Ludorf and told him to recreate Aquaman's powers, only stronger. Dr. Hans tried to comply, but something in the process went wrong and Dudley became a hulking monstrosity with at least twice Aquaman's superhuman strength and the ability to breathe underwater. Now dubbing himself Aqua Beast, Peter Dudley attacked Aquaman and kidnapped Mera. Whether or not Aquaman could have defeated Dudley in his Aqua Beast form remains a mystery, however, because Dudley and Mera were then attacked by Hamuri, an extraterrestrial from an unspecified aquatic planet who had come to Earth plotting a global conquest. Hamuri and Dudley fought, and in the course of the battle both fell into a tidal whirlpool from which neither one was able to escape from. Check out Dudley in 1967's Aquaman, number 34. Number 8, Orm Marius. The half-brother of Aquaman and also his greatest enemy, Orm Marius, aka the Ocean Master, appeared pretty early on in Orm's career as Aquaman. Over anything else, Ocean Master desires the throne of Atlantis, and he's done some pretty maniacal things to try and get it. Adopting the identity of human businessman Orm Marius, Ocean Master built a private fleet and attempted to plunder New Marine City, a construction project on the Gotham City waterfront using his half-brother Aquaman, who he had hypnotized as, some muscle. Aquaman was freed from Orm's influence by Batman and driven from Gotham. Aquaman prevented Commissioner Gordon Orm from killing Orm because he desired to bring his brother back to justice himself. Wondering why I'm considering Orm to be a dark alternate version of Aquaman? Well, it's because in one of the last settings of this villain, he has used his mystical talents to alter reality so that he was Aquaman, and Orm was Ocean Master. As Aquaman, Orm held Sub Diego under his evil rule, however the heroic Ocean Master was able to defeat him, of course. Check out Ocean Master's story for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1966's Aquaman, number 29. Number 7. Fisherman. An international criminal who started off as a thief who would steal anything he could get his hands on and sell them to the highest bidder. He came in contact with Aquaman after stealing a formula that could enlarge any living matter, and ever since then, the two have been enemies. Fast forward a little bit and we see the Fisherman clash with Aquaman on multiple occasions, each time ending in his defeat, and he eventually takes up residence in the villain-friendly country of Zandia. That was, however, just the first iteration of the Fisherman, however, because there have been a few Fishermen over the years, and that's because he is actually a parasite that takes over a host and forces them to commit crimes and do his bidding. The second iteration attacked the Gotham police during the Infinite Crisis alongside Scavenger, Red Pansy, and Riddler, and was shot down by Marcus Driver. And the third was actually just an imposter fisherman that was revealed to be a xenoform parasite that controlled its host using fear. Take a look at this character for yourself, starting with their first appearance in 1965's Aquaman, number 21. Number 6. King Proximus. One of many corrupt Atlanteans, Proximus was one of the worst, conspiring to straight up eliminate Aquaman for being the chosen hero. Proximus summoned Aquaman back to Poseidonus under the pretext of investigating a series of bizarre explosions taking place outside the city. When the two went to investigate, Proximus pushed Aquaman into the path of the spiraling vortex, sending him backwards through time like 2,500 years. Returning to Atlantis, Proximus assumed Aquaman's appearance and told everyone that the real Proximus had died in the explosions. With Aquaman's reputation, he was able to do pretty much anything and everything. However, he was eventually taken down by Aquaman after he returned to the present alongside Aqualad. A short time later, Proximus conspired with a pirate named Captain Clay, and together they lured a pack of sea monsters to attack Atlantis. While Aquaman and Aqualad were distracted trying to keep the creatures away from the populated areas, Proximus took advantage of the situation and staged a coup against the Atlantean king Stamar. His first official act as the newly crowned king was to imprison Aquaman and Aqualad. However, this didn't really last too long because our heroes were able to dethrone him and take him down. Check out his 4-issue run for yourself, starting with the 1962's Aquaman, number 3.
In at 5, superhuman jumping. We once did a list on this channel that was top 10 superheroes who could jump. I can't remember if Aquaman made the cut, but thinking about it now, he probably should have. This is a fun list. When it comes to Aquaman, superhuman jumping is probably not a talent of his that immediately comes to mind. Not to be mistaken with flying, an ability of his that occasionally pops up and is occasionally retconned, Arthur is capable of leaping massive heights into the air, jumping 4 or 5 stories high with complete ease. He can cross whole cities with just a handful of leaps. It's definitely not a power that we see a lot of, although many fans feel that it is a nice power that gives him the ability to cross distances quickly without having to fly. Regardless, it is pretty impressive.
Number 4. Underwater Man. On Earth 10, the history of not only the planet, but many of our superpowered friends is a bit different from what you might expect. On this Earth, Superman, known as Overman, crash landed as a baby in Germany instead of Kansas, and the Germans used him to win World War II and basically take over the whole world. And, you know, along with an evil Superman obviously comes an evil version of the Justice League known as the New Reichman. On this evil team is an Atlantean known as Underwater Man, and he is basically Aquaman in every way, shape, and form, because the two share all of their powers. However, the biggest difference is that, this version is, well, evil. Underwater Man is a firm believer in the World War II era Germanic thinking, and he truly thought that Atlantis was the birthplace and root of the Aryan race, so that's why he aligned himself with the New Reichman. Eventually though, and thankfully, Overman realized that what they were doing was wrong, and he leaked some precious information to the freedom fighters that resulted in the demise of not only the New Reichman, but Metropolis as well. Check out Underwater Man in his first appearance in 2015's The Multiversity Mastermen, number 1. Number 3. Captain Demo. Although his real identity is unknown, Captain Demo is a high-tech underwater pirate whose crew specializes in using very deadly and very experimental weaponry. Demo drives a fully functioning 16th century pirate ship that somehow works perfectly underwater, and of course when you drive a 16th century ship, you have to dress the part. It's also not really explained how, but he and his crew are able to breathe perfectly underwater without the need for scuba gear or anything like that. Deciding one day to conquer Atlantis, he managed to rig the entire city to explode unless Aquaman submitted to him, to which he complied and ended up doing some truly terrible things. When he finally got the chance, Aquaman turned on Demo and knocked him out cold in a one-on-one fist fight. Toppo the Octopus also helped out, and he took out the majority of Demo's men. However, enough of them were able to band together and rescue their captain so that they could live to fight another day. Check out Captain Demo for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1975's Adventure Comics, number 441. Number 2. Sea King. From Earth 3, an alternate reality that was supposedly said to be the birthplace of true evil. Now on this Earth, nobody cares about right or wrong, they only care about strength and having power. So the weak are annihilated and only the strong live on. This is where Sea King comes in, the evil version of Aquaman who is a member of the Crime Syndicate, aka the Evil Justice League. Sea King, along with the rest of the Crime Syndicate, escaped the destruction of their native Earth by using a portal created by the Outsider to travel to our prime Earth. Unfortunately, Sea King did not survive the journey and immediately died the moment he exited the portal. The Syndicate dumped their fallen comrade in the middle of the ocean. However, after sinking to the bottom, Sea King suddenly awoke for, some unknown reason. During the Crime Syndicate's initial attack, Deadman entered the lifeless Sea King's body for protection, and by entering, he no longer knew who he was and began attacking his team when they came looking for him. John Constantine was able to break Sea King's hold on Deadman, though he locked him in the body, seeing it as useful in their plans to defeat the Crime Syndicate. Check out Sea King for yourself, starting with 2013's Justice League Volume 2, number 23. Number 1. Emperor Aquaman. Now, just checking, have I mentioned how much I love the Flashpoint timeline? No? Not enough, you say? Well, perfect, because next on our list is Orin of the Flashpoint timeline, otherwise known as Emperor Aquaman. Now, if you're not familiar with one of the sickest timelines in DC, basically what happened is Barry Allen went back in time to prevent the death of his mother. But doing this had some pretty severe consequences as it rewrote all history and created a new timeline. In this timeline, Orin was brought back to Atlantis when he was a teenager due to the death of his grandfather. As a result, the young Arthur never learned compassion and kindness from his father, who was killed by the Atlantean agents sent to recover him. Fast forward to the present day and we see Atlantis in an all-out war against the Amazons because Wonder Woman killed Mira, his wife, in retaliation to having her mother killed. Aquaman caused Western Europe to sink into the sea, killing over 60 million people, intending to also sink England and the rest of the world as well. His full plan never gets realized though because a final battle is waged between Emperor Aquaman and Wonder Woman. However, they're both approached by the Flash and the rest of the heroes who are there to stop the war for good.